So we're all vulnerable is the title of the article in the Australian newspaper, theage.com.au by Ashley McMillan. And it's basically it's a report on a report. It's a report on a report, or a report on a paper, a peer-reviewed scientific paper that was published last Friday in the academic journal Nature Reviews Microbiology. And they're defining long COVID as COVID that lasts more than 12 weeks. And an estimated 65 million people worldwide now have long COVID. It's estimated, I'm quoting from the article, it is estimated more than 10% of those who catch COVID will experience chronic health issues, with women aged 30 to 55 particularly at risk. Long COVID symptoms vary but can include severe fatigue, brain impairment, and nervous system dysfunction, as well as nausea and shortness of breath. And this is another one that caught my eye. They write, each time a person is reinfected with the virus, they have the same likelihood of catching long COVID. In other words, having had COVID once before and not getting long COVID doesn't mean that the next time you get it, you won't. They say an analysis by the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs of 150,000 American veterans showed they had an increased risk of cardiovascular disease such as heart failure and stroke a full year after catching COVID, regardless of how severe the initial infection was. This is one nasty disease. And you hear that, we've got a very low unemployment rate right now, and, employers are trying to find employees and all this kind of stuff. Well, if 10% of the people who who got COVID have long COVID, and, I mean, we don't have numbers of the total number of people in America who have been infected with COVID, but it's probably in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 million people, which means that we could have 15 to 20 million people, if it's 10%, who have long COVID. That sounds like just a mind-boggling number. Now, what percentage of the people in the workforce? Well, I believe there's 135 million people in the workforce in the United States. I might be off by 5 or 10 million, but it's in that neighborhood. So if 10% of that's 13 million people, 10% of that with long COVID, and people with long COVID are probably not in the workforce. That might be one of the things that's driving our low unemployment numbers, because the labor force has shrunk. I think this is just the math of all this, and the economic and cultural impacts of this, I think, are fascinating. Not to mention the horrors of the medical side of the danger of getting COVID and ending up with long COVID.